Alright, so now that you've seen a tour of the city or headquarters, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my job. As I said, I worked during my co-op as the staff recruitment coordinator in the Human Potential Department for City Air Inc. And the cool description, it was a good overview of the job. But it's very difficult to put my job into words. I had some day-to-day things. My basic job, what I was originally hired for, was to post positions for all of the 20 sites that the company has, to track candidates for any jobs within headquarters where I worked, to set up interviews and to keep the candidates moving along, and basically to facilitate hiring. But so much of my job changed from day to day that what I often said about it was that I just had to learn by doing, which is really a cool style for me because it really was a challenge at all times, where I had my day-to-day and I was good at it, but I never knew what was going to come up. I also worked with reimbursements, making sure that receipts were paid for. But some of my duties that they increased over time as I went along and as people started trusting me and saying that I could handle things. I worked on a reorg for the entire organization. It was top secret. I wasn't supposed to talk about it. And it was to facilitate to help with the CEO and the co-founder. So, that was a really cool opportunity. And I was part of a lot of different projects that went on, setting up conferences. So while I had day-to-day and while that was all in the description, things, be it me or just what the job was supposed to be, changed all the time. So it was pretty cool. When I went to look for my co-op, I hoped to find a job that diversified my resume. All of my work previously was in childcare, which is great and I love it. But my fear going into it was that I was going to be pigeonholed. So I went into it and I said I want to find a job in an office. It's completely not my style. I'm really a hands-on kind of person. I like to be right in there with people. But I wanted to find a job in an office to prove that the skills that I had, I could use somewhere else. So on my resume, I had different things and I wasn't stuck in any particular area. And I hope that that is what I accomplished. I feel like I did. So it was, success. I felt really prepared for the most part to work in an office. I'd done administrative work at my previous job, my current job, I should say. I'd done hiring of staff and scheduling and paperwork for admins things. But I was still honestly kind of freaked out because it was a new atmosphere and it was a job that I really hadn't done. I hadn't done 8 hours at a desk. I hadn't done work with, bigwigs, as you might call them. So while I felt prepared, I still felt really scared going in because it was new. It was very new. Some of the challenges that I faced, it was a new culture, and there's a lot of different lingo at City Air, what I found really early on, even in my interviews. People kept saying human potential to me. And every time I went in for an interview, I'd ask them what my job was because it wasn't connecting for me right away. I think that was mostly me. But the biggest challenge I had was just getting used to the culture. It's a very unique culture at that company, and it's very cool once you get used to it. So at first, it took a little bit of, explaining, a little bit of thinking, but I got it. And it was very cool for me for successes. I was actually able to bring in and interview the next class of Northeastern Co-op. So being that person in that position and talking to the next group of people was just a really fun experience for me. I really got into it because I could sit down with these kids and I could tell them all the things that I wish someone had been there to tell me. And the people I interviewed with were incredible. But I was coming directly from the position of the people I was interviewing, and it was just very cool for me to be into that particular procedure. I also feel I gained a lot of trust throughout the office. It's a huge company, and by the end, everyone knew me, and when they found out I was leaving, they were very upset. So, it's really, it means a lot. It's a huge testament to someone, for them to feel that way. So, my biggest success was probably just actually finding a footing to where my job went from day-to-day job description to, we have a project, let's give it to her because she can do it. So that was really cool. I felt that I had the kind of flexibility to work in an office with, the culture and the office skills going in, because a lot of the jobs that I've had have required me to just be able to, change course on a dime. But I was, as I said, more accustomed to hands-on work prior to this, so I had to adjust to sitting in an office, for 8 hours sitting at a desk and doing work, and that kind of different culture. And also to not get stressed out, because many times I would have 3 or 4 things going on at once. And I think possibly because that wasn't the kind of responsibility I was used to, I hold myself to a very high standard on everything. So there were times, and a skill that I had to learn was how to handle this kind of, quote, grown-up work, and, getting used to that. So I think it's incredibly important because it's useful pretty much anywhere. I did work unpaid, and the hardest part about it actually happened to be circumstantial. I had family things that went on, and my I need help more financially, so it became more of a problem as it went along. It's hard, but it's absolutely worth it. The other 20 hours I worked at my job at the YMCA, and it's like home there, so that was a really, it was a good counter to this slightly scary new situation I put myself in. And I knew going into an unpaid job that it would be hard, but I also knew that I was going to this acclaimed company. I mean, they had 20 sites in the U.S., 2 internationally in South Africa and in London, and there's so many opportunities in there that I knew that getting that networking was absolutely worth any financial strain that would come from not being paid. And there were actually a lot of people in the office who really respected that, and when they heard that I wasn't getting paid, they would say thank you, and they really appreciated that commitment. So that was, it was worth it. In the future, I love kids. They're kind of one of my number one passions, I should say, if that's possible. My preference is definitely hands-on working with kids, but from working in a nonprofit company and seeing the work that City Year does, they go in with kids every single day from the second they get into school until after school, and they're with them and they're mentoring them, and the effects are so huge and it just spreads everywhere that I would really love to. I was inspired by that, and I would love to do something in that similar vein. My particular passion is with music, and if I'm going to dream big about it, I would really love to do a similar type of thing, but adding a music education, because it's so important. It's getting cut by budgets. So it was an inspiration for me to see that it is possible for people to go in and make a difference like that. My advice to kids students going into their first co-op, or, second or third, is just to take chances. Don't be afraid of your resume or what you think you can do, because, I sit here as proof. There were people who probably looked at my resume and said I was only qualified to watch children, but I wasn't, and I knew it, and obviously the supervisors I worked with knew it. And there's just so much more that you can do, and this is the time to take chances. So if that job on Cool looks too crazy, give it a shot anyway. The worst they can say is no. So good luck, and thank you.